All right. Hello, Nevada County. This is David Clark Carroll with the Nevada County Tech Connection. We're a project of the Nevada County Economic Resource Council, really looking at the intersection of tech, business, education, and really how people are using tech in Nevada County. We've talked to folks from the hospital. We've talked to folks from CAL FIRE. We actually talked to Melissa here last year when she was doing their 5G symposium, and I'm real glad to have her back on to talk a little more broadly about her role at Quietech Associates and pretty much everything they offer the community and so forth. Now, some of you folks may recognize her from taking in your computers when they needed critical help. They are awesome. So without much further ado, welcome to TechTonic TV, Melissa. So glad to have you back on.
I appreciate it. It's great to see you.
Now, your company has quite a history. It, when we were preparing for this interview, one of the things we like to do is get an article with you and pursuing this fantastic piece that Jennifer wrote. And I realized Quietech was started by your father the year I was born, which
wow.
For a tech company is that's quite a long history.
It really is.
I'd love to hear a little bit about what role Quietech was doing in those days. I know there were computers in those days, but not quite the ones we think of. How did Quietech get started and off the ground?
So Quietech was started in New Jersey. We lived on the East Coast at the time, and Quietech was started as a company that created silencing covers for dot matrix printers. They're outrageously loud. You still see them when you go buy a car at the car dealership. They've got these crazy line printers. So it made enclosures that covered it and silenced it, hence the quiet in the Quietech, which people have a lot of questions and concerns about our name, and the pronunciations that we get are hysterical. We enjoy all of them, but that is the true story of our name. When we relocated to California, my father got involved at Harvest Computers teaching computer classes. And that kind of started a lot of people needing help with their computers in their homes, because this was a brand new thing. People having computers inside of their own home, that was really new back then. And so he had the opportunity to go in and help people with answering questions and fix things that were broken. And it developed into something much bigger than printer enclosures. And then in 2013, my father retired and I was able to take over and grow it from there. So it's definitely morphed over its nearly 40 years, and happy upcoming birthday for that. It's definitely changed what we do, but we just try to stay fluid with what the community needs, where technology is at, and it is really fun to stay current and to stay on top of what people need from us.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about those early years when you were transitioning to really working with people's and their home computers. There's, I think, a real blindness these days to how not user-friendly those early machines were. I remember MS-DOS. I do not remember MS-DOS fondly. So I imagine that's just such a wealth of potential tech support opportunities, if you will. What was I don't know how much you can speak to those years of the transition from the MS-DOS interface to the GUI in first Mac and then Windows. Was that at all part of your experience? Do you have memories of those days?
Yeah, I absolutely do on a personal side. I'm only a little bit older than you, but I definitely was heavily into computers from the get-go. One of my first childhood memories is being on my dad's lap looking at a computer, and it was probably 1983, 1984. So my obsession started very early, and I was one of the kids that was lucky enough that my parents, of course, with who my dad was, I was able to have a computer in my bedroom very early on, before I was even a teenager, and I was gaming and I was taking things apart and just loving it so much. So I definitely went through the transition from DOS to Windows, and I've been through that. And the beautiful part is we still get to use DOS. So we get in to do different commands. And in fact, for a client last week, I was able to resurrect their old billing software that's DOS based and put it on their Windows 10 computer for them so it still functions, and they were absolutely thrilled. So having that background knowledge, I still call on it. I still use it. It's pretty fun to have the whole spectrum of DOS all the way up to Windows 11 now. So I remember.
Well, MS-DOS was one of those things too, where like I'm a big fan of Ubuntu. I love running various Linux builds on a couple of laptops I have for that. And I don't think I'd be as comfortable with that if I didn't have that history of, elementary school computer class, MS-DOS Oregon Trail.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
we definitely had Oregon Trail. That was a lot of fun. I think that was like about second, third grade. That was when I was really getting into that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so kind of contrary to how far computers have come, people still need a fair bit of help navigating their home systems.
They do.
And one of the things that you talked to Jennifer about that really struck me and that I'd like to get into is your TechBar, which is just such a cool idea. We occasionally get questions at the Tech Connection about pretty much exactly that of, hey, can you show us how to do this? So I'd love to hear a little bit more about, did that come about partly because of customer requests, and how did you create that program?
Absolutely. That really kind of happened organically for us. When we opened our first storefront in 2014 on South Auburn Street, we had 1,000 square feet and we had a single tech encounter, and we eventually expanded out and added a classroom. Once we started teaching group classes, we realized that people really wanted to come in for one-on-one training. So when we moved to we have 1 week left in our 309 Neal Street location, but when we moved into this location, we decided to establish a space where people could come in and get one-on-one training with their questions. And boy, I had no idea how much of a gap in the community we would be filling, because so many people have so many questions about how to just use their computer. It's not broken, they just need to know how to use it better. And who are they supposed to call and ask? And so we've created a service where people can come in and talk to nice people who don't make you feel stupid. That's our biggest thing, and can help walk through things that are from basic to a little bit more complex. We have people come in and want help with how to send a text message, how to send a picture to their grandkids, how to Skype, how to do basic tasks. And I think it's invaluable that we can provide that as a resource to our community. And the other big thing that really stands out to me about TechBar is how often I hear, I should know how to do this. I should know how to do this. I hear that over and over again. And I think, why should you know how to do this? Why would you automatically know how to use Skype if you have no experience using it? And so I always tell people, I love cars as much as I love computers. So I always try to relay things in cars. And I think, you know how to put gas in your car, but you don't know how to take the ins and outs. You can learn, but why would you automatically know how to do that just because you own a car? And so I really try to convey to people to let themselves off the hook and not feel that guilt. It's okay to not know, and it's okay to know just enough for what you need to do on the computer. So we really focus hard on trying to meet people where they're at their skill level, and just teach them what they need to know or want to know so that they can go forward and feel a little bit more empowered when they step out the door and they get home and they can Skype with their grandkids. That's our big focus, and it's been hugely successful, and we love to offer it. And on that note, in our new location that we'll be in starting next week, we are going to have individual private rooms for that, and I haven't mentioned this to anyone, so premiere here. We also have murals that were painted by Gary Ann Van Dyke, a wonderful local muralist, in each room, so they each have a different feel. And my goal with that was really to have a comforting, disarming environment where it's fun, it's whimsical, you're there to learn, nobody's on the hook, nobody's taking a test. And so I'm really excited to share that new space with the community, and it will be individual rooms rather than an open space. So you have more privacy, a little bit better sound control. We're so excited to get in there and get people into our TechBar in our new location and get trained.
That's just so awesome. You talked about a couple of really cool things I want to circle back to. One of which is, the expectation that people should know how to work something.
Yeah.
When we were just getting this live stream off the ground, tech changes. It changes on a weekly basis, and there's always going to be something you don't know how to do. It's I think the real important thing is knowing that, hey, I'm not going to be able to figure out everything about this device, about this software right off the bat, and figuring out what resources you need to learn that, whether it's, one-on-one tutoring with you, whether it's finding a couple of good forums online to, figure out, hey, they updated this piece of software. Let's go on the forum and see what other people have figured out. Because the odds are someone has had the same problem you're having, particularly when it comes to using the tech.
Yeah.
And, I really like the idea of these murals. You're going to have to post some pictures on Facebook if I haven't missed them. But
so I like I said, this is premier information. You're the first to hear about it. So the few contractors who've been in our space fixing it up for us have seen it, but I really wanted to keep it under wraps until it was finished. But Gary Ann did such an incredible job, and I'm just so thrilled to have that be a feature piece in our new space.
Oh, that's cool that we got the scoop. Really appreciate that. Now, once you know how to use your system, and someone's come in and you showed them how to, let's say, make sure their phone's up to date, because that's one of the big things that I think a lot of people aren't as aware of, is how frequently to update your device and make sure those notifications are on. My parents are on the older side, and while my dad did have a Zenith MS-DOS beast about the size of a closet back in the 80s that he used for writing, he wasn't he wasn't a coder. He was just a user of the devices. And if you're not on top of those updates, if you're not aware of how to check that, you can really be susceptible to all sorts of nasty stuff out there. And part of the reason I wanted to have you on was we've been beating the cybersecurity drum pretty hard here the last little while. I saw last summer and fall just the parade of news stories of places like the city of Grass Valley, I believe Nevada Irrigation District, multiple entities, all were victims of ransomware. And, we talked with Professor Alex Torres at Sierra a little bit on the bigger picture of how these attacks happen. And I really wanted to get you on to talk about it from the perspective of someone who's been handed a bricked computer and had to figure out what happened, what can we do? And you also work with businesses to help prepare them so that if that happens, they have a backup plan.
Right.
So I'd love to hear your thoughts a little bit on how you help people prepare to be safe using
totally. The constant mission I am on is to convince every person I ever have contact with they need to back up their computer. I would say 15%, and that's being generous, of the computers that come in have a functional backup. That's it. And so I try to have I'm doing the lecturing a lot, but I try to tell people I know it doesn't hurt right now that you don't have one, but it will hurt when something bad happens. So I think the first line of defense that I constantly try to beat into everybody's head is have a backup, have two, have as many as you can. You cannot have a backup too many times. It cannot be overly redundant. We started about a year ago also partnering with Malwarebytes, and we love working with them because they have anti-malware built in, anti-ransomware built into their software, and even has a component that will roll back ransomware if you get infected. And between those two things, I feel like I can really offer a complete coverage solution where you're very unlikely to get hit, but if you do, we can roll it back and fix it. And I think the biggest thing that I would say is if I could talk people into doing more preventative measures, those are the two things. Having protective software and having a good backup would be the two things I would ask for every person to have on their system. Us humans are pretty bad at preventative measures with our bodies, with our cars. I mean, I think most people kind of exist in the, well, nothing bad is going to happen type of zone. Unfortunately, most of the time, something bad does happen to computers in one way or another. Either a hard drive fails, or you get ransomware, or somebody convinces you to connect to your computer and takes over and does stuff. There's so many risk factors that could potentially take away your precious files that it's not worth it to not have protective measures in place. So I tend to be the overbearing, mom that's telling everybody what to do, but I have everyone's best interest in mind. I want to make sure that nobody has to lose their files, because in the years I've been doing this, I cannot tell you how many people I have watched weep in front of me because they lost every photo of a dead relative, every photo of the best vacation they've ever been on. And that's it. It's gone. In some cases, you can send a hard drive off and have the data recovered, but it's $3,000. So it's way more expensive than just paying preventative measures in the first place. So I feel like if I could get anybody to listen to one message from me, it's protect yourself up front. Don't wait till something bad happens to try to fix it, because it's going to be painful and very expensive if you do aftermath damage control. That's just the way it is. So we actively promote to as many people as we can. You don't have to do a backup or an antivirus through us. You just need it at all, period. Just let us help you figure something out so that we don't have to watch you cry.
I'd love to talk a little bit about backup options.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people maybe just let's say they have their photos synced to the cloud and they think that's all good. Is that good enough? Or, let's get into the nitty gritties a little bit, because I talked backup with Alex too, but we didn't get into what makes a good backup. What are the things, particularly with ransomware, are your files encrypted? Because, if you backed up, yeah, you can get your data back, but whoever hacked you has all of your data.
Right,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, I tend to be a little over the top and protective, especially of business clients. I essentially force all of my business clients to have what I consider to be a two-part backup. I like a physical on-site backup, an external hard drive, a second internal hard drive that collects backups regularly, and I like a cloud backup. And my logic for that is things fail. You don't check on stuff for a while. And I have to tell you, I set people up with a cloud backup like Carbonite, and there's times that I haven't seen the person for 2 or 3 years, and I go back to see them because now they need help. And they say, I have Carbonite, and I look and I go, no, it expired 2 years ago. They would have been emailing, or it says it's in error mode and it's blinking and nobody's done anything. And so it's hard because one system can fail, and understandably, the end user doesn't necessarily know what the blinking means or what the email means. And so my thought process is, if I can get two systems in place, the likelihood that both will fail is pretty slim. And it just gives us one more layer of protection to go back on. If ransomware happens to take it, then we can check one more place for valid files. And, I feel like it's a very small sacrifice to invest another $80 into an external hard drive. So you've got that extra protection. So I believe in a two-part backup. There are some businesses that I have even more than that based off of the complexity of their files. One business in particular, they have 5 backups, but some are off-site, some are cloud. There is not a chance that they will ever lose anything. And in addition, I would say, I think it was 3 years ago or maybe 4, they got ransomware. Over 1 million files were taken. And we had a message on every file that you click it and it would say, you need to send Bitcoin to this email address. And instead of doing that, I put all their files back from a backup and we started over. They lost nothing. So the power of being able to rebuild and not negotiate with terrorists, which is what I believe paying ransom for ransomware is, I think is huge. And it costs them way less to have those backups in place than they would have paid for ransom plus my time to fix. And on top of that, it's the honor system. You hope the person that you paid a Bitcoin to will give your files back, but will they? So, I mean, I wouldn't trust that to send. I think they wanted $1,600 in Bitcoin value. And I'm thinking, so what happens if they don't give the files back and you give them $1,600? There's no recourse. There's no law enforcement that can step in and say, hey, you have their $1,600. So being protective, being your own computer's bodyguard, and making sure that systems are in place that you can't be taken advantage of is kind of the ultimate power move. You become untouchable, So I love to set people up like that and go, now watch when somebody tries to take over.
So when it comes to cloud backups, you mentioned Carbonite.
Mhm.
Is that your personal favorite? Do you feel like, how do you feel if someone comes in and says, oh yeah, I just sync everything to iCloud, like they've got a Mac and they just keep everything in those synced folders? Is
Yeah.
that a sufficient approach, or?
It's a bit dangerous from my perspective. The only reason why is the same thing as the blinking message from Carbonite. Google Drive, iCloud Drive, all of those types of cloud syncing, not backup type of programs, Dropbox, they tend to throw a message up in the lower right-hand corner that say, you deleted a file and you have 30 days to get it back. Even though the message is clearly written, the end user typically has trouble interpreting what that means. My fear is always that a person will delete things assuming it is backed up, but they deleted their original and in 30 days, it's gone from the cloud as well. I fully support people who want to use Google Drive, iCloud Drive, Dropbox as their cloud backup, as long as they have a physical backup as well. That's all I ask. So, it's like, then we have another place to get files if they delete something mistakenly and don't realize it's gone from the cloud's trash as well in 30 days. So
That's a really excellent point you bring up. I have personally done that. You delete something in a synced file. I'm like, oh yeah, it's still in the cloud, and it's like, no, it's not.
Not anymore. Yeah.
So
losing files, it hurts my heart personally when people lose stuff. So I try to work towards making it so people have so much protection that they can't hurt themselves.
now, when it comes to those hard backups, is this the sort of thing where if someone is, let's say, got a Mac and they use Time Machine, do you want that plugged in the whole workday, going in the background? Do you advise, the once a day? How frequently should these backups be happening?
I think once a day is a very good principle for a home user. For businesses, I tend to create individual backups so that we can go back on a hard drive to yesterday or the day before or the day, we can kind of keep a week's history. Time Machine is an incredible backup because of the way it keeps a sequential backup going backward in time as a time machine. But my biggest thing is I like for people to keep the hard drive connected because we are humans, we are forgetful. People unplug a hard drive and intend to plug it in the next day and it gets forgotten for 5 years. So I think the biggest thing is creating a foolproof system that you can't mess up as a human, making it so it's so automated that you cannot possibly forget to do it. And then it's always there when you need it. I think is the biggest thing for me because I forget tons of stuff. If I'm reliant on my memory to back my computer up, it is not going to get backed up, period. I have to have it automated. There's too much going on otherwise. And I think that applies to most people. Having a backup is an out of sight, out of mind type of thing. It is not I need to pay attention to this every day because it will be forgotten.
So that fancy external drive you have hit in a fire safe in the back of your closet that you know was last updated maybe 6 months ago.
Right.
Not quite as useful as you're hoping.
No, I do have a client who is excellent with all of his backups and everything, and he actually takes his hard drives to a safe deposit box and swaps them. So he has one plugged in, and then he'll take it to the bank and swap it and take the other one. So he always has one in a safe box, and I think that's fantastic that he has taken so much initiative on protecting himself. And he has carbonite and you know, he's triple protected. So
That's it. That's the sort of customer you want to see come in.
That's right.
Now, I'm gonna toot your horn a little bit here because something that the article Jennifer wrote made me aware of is that you've won Best in Nevada County 6 years in a row.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool.
Cool.
How did you first did a customer nominate you for that? Because it seems like that's a pretty serious streak.
I know. I don't know. We won it for the first year that we were open as a storefront, and it has continued. And I'm so proud to have been chosen as that by our community. And I have to say, it's most of the credit really goes to my staff. They are incredible and they love our customers and they work so hard to make people feel comfortable and taken care of and never scared. And so I feel like it's a wonderful recognition of that reputation of my staff that we've gotten that so many years in a row. And I will be thrilled if we get it again. I know there's other excellent providers in our community. So, you know, we're just so proud that we've been able to serve everybody and made people happy.
Well, with the sound of those new TechBar rooms, you just might get another year.
We're so excited.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about this this new space you guys are moving to. What led to the move?
You know, honestly, the TechBar thing was a big portion of it. We have had a very open floor plan for the last 6 years, and we've had 3 TechBars set apart in that, and we've tried soundproof foam, we've tried dividers, we've tried everything you can imagine to try to create a more intimate, personal experience for people who are there. And it's been tough. The noise definitely escalates as people try to talk over the person next to them, and it's involuntary. Nobody knows that they're doing it. And I'll realize I'll be in the back and I'll hear the voices getting louder and louder. And for a split second, I think that someone's yelling. And I go, what's going on? And then I realize, no, people can't hear. So the opportunity to get into this space over on Sutton Way, I feel like the location is fantastic. I love that we're going to be right in the hub of Brunswick, which is kind of central to Grass Valley and Nevada City, right in the basin. The parking is wonderful in our new space. We've got so much parking and wide parking spots. And so just between needing better control of sound for our customers, having better parking, better location, it just felt like a good time to make a positive move. And I reached out to Locke and Susie Richards, who are local commercial real estate people, and they are wonderful. I adore them. Susie went through many buildings with me and we found this one and I went, this is it. This is perfect for what we need. So I was so blessed. The building owners, they have allowed me to change everything I want to, knock walls down, put walls up, paint, new floor. The space is brand new. So I get to welcome our customers into a completely fresh, brand new space on Tuesday. And I'm just so excited to show everybody it's going to be way better for our staff and way better for our customers.
That's pretty awesome.
I know.
I think that everyone likes the idea of more parking and easy to access. Now, easy access, is kind of crucial given how many more people have been using tech over the last couple of years. How was that change from your perspective? Where 2 years ago, no one was on Zoom, and then a little less than 2 years ago, everyone's on Zoom.
Necessity is the mother of invention. It really is. And I have loved seeing people just embrace technology because it got them to what they wanted. I've watched people who has historically, I've got some clients I've worked with for over 20 years and I know them. I know their family. I know what they're like with their computer. I've watched people who have previously been very timid with their computer. All of a sudden they're on Zoom, they're doing Facebook chat, they're doing all kinds of stuff because it was a necessity for them to stay connected to their friends, their family, and their community. And so it's been so cool to watch people just embrace stuff that they had no experience with and it just take off. The first 3 months, I can't tell you how many webcams we sold and how many hundreds of calls we got for webcams. And I'm going, we're sold out, and so is everyone in the country. There are no webcams. Can't get them. And people would come in and buy laptops so they would have a webcam because that was the only way to get one. So that has been really cool to see and to just watch people embrace that. And then, just watching as people embrace all aspects of technology. I think in Nevada County, the average user is probably a couple years behind a person who lives in a big city, just because we don't have the same stuff. We got fast internet later than everybody else. And so we tend to adopt things a little bit later, but I've really watched that kind of ramping up as we're getting faster internet. We're just kind of getting up into a more modern age. And, I mentioned in my previous conversation that people embracing the cloud has been really fun to watch too. We had tons of cloud hesitancy 5 years ago. And there are still people who are nervous, but I think the biggest thing that people are they don't understand. They don't really get what the cloud is and where it is and all of that. I'm always happy to educate people and help with that, but there's less fear surrounding it. And that really makes me happy because I hate for people to be afraid. I feel like it's healthy to be concerned about threats and people who can take advantage, but being afraid of your computer in general, that's a recipe for not having a good time. That's going to create a thing where you've got bad negative feelings every time you log on to your computer. I want it to be positive and happy, and it connects you to what you want to see and who you want to talk to. That's really the point. And so I think watching our community, especially the elderly in our community, embrace all of those concepts and just get that comfort level, it's so cool to watch. It really is.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's it's been an interesting change. I was talking with Michael Anderson of ClientWorks in the fall, and he had this great line where he said, the pandemic has sped up broadband development in Nevada County by like 5-7 years. And, I talked with folks from Race Communications and Nevada County Fiber a couple of years ago. I believe that would have been fall of 2020. AT&T wasn't offering fiber optic broadband in downtown Grass Valley then. they are now.
Yeah.
Things have just accelerated, and it's just so exciting to see. And I'm so glad you are helping some of our folks navigate these changes and embrace them. I got to mention, so I talked with you last about a year ago when you were doing a 5G symposium, which is another one of those, hey, you've got information the public doesn't have. You want to educate them. So I don't want to go too long tonight, but I would just like get a little bit of your take on that. And I'll stick the YouTube link down in the comments for that, because I think it was just a really cool thing to do.
Yeah. So the 5G symposium was really cool, and I learned a lot from doing the research to get into that, and was able to collaborate with some actually pretty big names who are in 5G development. And that was really powerful. What I loved most about doing that was dispelling some of the fear and myths that were really heavily circulating around our county at that time about 5G. And to be able to tell people it's okay, it's already here, it's already happening in front of your eyes, that felt really good to be able to give some of that information. And I got a ton of positive feedback from people who reached out to me directly and said, thank you for explaining it. It's really not the boogeyman. And I love to be able to provide, same thing with telling people about what the cloud is. That's something that I feel is a great service that we can provide to dispel some of the fear for people. People do not need to be afraid of this kind of stuff. Again, protect yourself from the threats that do exist, like you have to in every aspect of the world, like you do when you drive. You have to be a defensive driver, but don't be afraid to get in the car and go to the grocery store, So I feel like being able to provide that information was really good for me to be able to do that. And I learned a ton.
That's just awesome. I mean, it's exactly the sort of customer service that got you those 6 best ofs, like you're not just fixing computers, you're taking an active interest in how the community interacts with tech.
Right.
And that's why we wanted to have you on.
Thank you.
I had that moment of, wait, we talked with you last year, but we didn't do a TechTonic. So really nice to have you on, just kind of stretch out a little bit more. These started as a speaker series where it'd be, get a couple people together in a room. People would talk on various business and finance and tech issues, and then network a little bit. And the last couple of years have put a bit of a kibosh on the networking side of it. So I figured we do the networking. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time tonight. I know you look great today. I never would have known you almost had to cancel because you were feeling under the weather. But I want you to continue feeling good, so I won't keep you too much later. And you've got quite an exciting week. I do. I'm assuming you have to get everything. How far has the move gone? Is there stuff there now, or are you in the packing stage?
We haven't moved really anything. Today I was at our new location meeting with our contractor who installed all the TVs for all the TechBars. So we'll have nice large screen TVs instead of monitors on the desk for every TechBar for us to be able to really display what we want people to see. We put a giant TV in the entryway so we can display information about our business. So we're doing the fine tuning stuff with the help of our contractor. And then on Friday we'll be closed, and we're going to move all weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and we'll reopen in our new space on Tuesday, ready to serve the community in our new space.
Well, that's going to be quite a marathon. I hope it all goes smoothly. And if anyone out there was planning on stopping by Quietech on Friday, wait, go on Tuesday. There will be more parking.
That's right.
And, I think that's about it. I had a bunch of questions that I think we got more or less all the way through. So awesome to have you on, Melissa.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Once again, folks, this was David Clark Carroll with the Nevada County Tech Connection. We've been chatting with Melissa from Quietech Associates. She runs just an awesome business. Go check out their new location. Go stop in for TechBar help. Instead of spending hours on YouTube, stop by Quietech.
I should mention at 541 Sutton Way, right next to Incredible Pets. But I probably should add that part in.
There you go. All right. Thanks again so much for joining me.